beautiful ones, we're live. Excellent. Well, look, I was just about to do this outside, but the streaming started, which is just typical, isn't it, really? And I've encountered this so many times when I'm about to say something that I know is really powerful, and perhaps I've got some internal resistance because I am learning to just be in my truth and to share that truth as openly as I can, and to give you the opportunity to feel into whether this really resonates or not. So if you don't know me, I'm Rosie Glow and I channel Divine Grace, and this is our time now to connect to what this grace really means, the power of revelation in this instance. And I am going to be talking about fairy tales, about Lucifer, and about why I believe we are currently in a holy war. And if you know me, you know I've been very, very careful about the language that I actually use. I've been very reticent to use words like fight and battle, on the basis that I know these kind of words create divide. But if you know anything about me already, you'll know that I have been intending to seed StarPeace, which to me is the antidote to what's going on in this world. And the reason for that is because there it goes. The reason for that is because we have been living in an era of Star Wars for so long. We actually have got no idea what StarPeace would look like. So if you're into astrology at all, you know that what goes on in the cosmos is reflected down here through our human interactions and what goes on in the world. And if you have any kind of spiritual practice, you will know that all spiritual teachers will say that this world is an illusion. This physical reality, prakriti, is an illusion. Our souls are eternal and we're here to have a physical experience in divine human form. Welcome those who are joining, please say hello. So the reason I wanted to bring these things together now is because I had a very wise friend come around and see me yesterday and basically call out what's going on in a very succinct way. And instead of him being in fear, I could see he really looked empowered. He was in his truth. Hey Nicole, good to see you. He was really in his truth and he was shining his light. Now, this is what happens when we go through a process where we awaken, we go through the horrors of seeing the world as not the way that we've been taught it is, either by our parents, our religion, our society, our education. And we go through a process of remembering who we are. This is the hero's journey. And we go through all sorts of challenges, all sorts of moments where it would be easy to give up. But, you know, this choice between the blue pill and the red pill is one that ultimately is a choice between being imprisoned or liberated. And that is the result of how we utilize our mind. Do we let it govern our hearts, or do we let our hearts govern our minds? And this, again, is very much about the space where you kind of say, all right, I understand I'm a being that is multidimensional. There are different aspects of my being. I've come here to learn to co-create consciously in a physical form. And so what I'm going to encounter is a lot of resistance as I reclaim my power, because power should never be abused. And it is being abused massively on this planet at the moment. That's why the Lucifer element is important, and I'll explain in a minute. But ultimately, more than this is the fact that if we are in a place where we are here to awaken to our truth and to share that with the world and to have a chance of actually seeding StarPeace and having peace on earth, then we do need to look at everything that is anti that. And rather than ignore it, pretend it's not there because it's uncomfortable, we need to bring it to the surface. So what's this fairy tale business and Lucifer got to do with this holy war? Well, always there's a battle inside of us, okay, between our head and our hearts, or between whether we're going to give in to the fear struggle paradigm within us, the idea that we're limited beings, the idea that we come from lack, the idea that there's not enough, we're not enough, and projecting that into the world, or remembering our divine nature and remembering the power of love to overcome all challenges. Now, recently, Netflix has taken off its viewers' options the ability to see the Once Upon a Time series, which there's loads of them, okay? Like Ian and I committed to watching these, and I don't know how many months we've been watching them for, but we watch from start to end. We're also big fans of the Netflix show Lucifer. And again, so far we've watched it from beginning to end. Now, they have something very in common, which is very important for us, because to go through this process of seeing things for what they are and the fact that they are not the way they're portrayed basically by the media, by our political systems, by our financial systems, our education systems, our healthcare system. Like it's like just about everything that we have stood as the pillar of truth of like, yeah, this is what it's all about. You know, this is what we've come to this earth to do. You just fit within the systems. Like, no, all of these systems are actually set to limit us. They're not set to empower us. And the point with this is that if we are to truly claim our power, what we have to do is we have to stand against those systems. We have to basically hold them accountable. We have to defend ourselves because we are under attack. And that attack is really insidious. Now, what prompted me to make this video was the fact that I got shown yesterday 2 sets of headlines in the US and the UK at the same time. So this was mainstream channel like news. And the headline was, "Is it time to ditch your waxed friends?" Yeah, the ones that ain't had that. And I was actually shocked, like absolutely shocked, because if you think about it, that's a discrimination in itself, and it's a public discrimination. Now, it's just a question, but if people aren't actually watching, they're just looking without listening, they don't know what's really being discussed, they're just seeing the headline, and that's posing the question. Now, the interesting thing is that other than in the media, and the governments, the big international organizations that are kind of leading this campaign, anywhere else you look, if you actually delve and you look, even like in England, we have public health system called the NHS. If you look at their pamphlets, you'll say they tell you the truth. They actually tell you the fact that they don't know whether this actually works in any way where you can actually not catch it again, not transmit it, and not die from it. And that is obviously what we've all been so concerned about the last 16 months or so. And, you know, then you get all these variants coming out as well. And apparently what has been created for us deals with those variants too. But here's the interesting thing. So does our immune system, if it's healthy, if it's well. So why are we becoming reliant and basically being coerced, manipulated, encouraged, and to some degree peer pressured into having something experimental that we don't know the effects of? We really don't. The only reason that all of this has come about is because of a testing function, a testing device, that the process in itself is, when you look into it and you look at the court cases that are going on around the world, highly inaccurate. So all of the figures that we've got are based on this testing facility, on this way of doing things, of finding out whether someone has or doesn't have it. And yet it's likely to be 80 to 90% inaccurate at the levels in which, the way it's been used in terms of cycles of amplification. Now, this might seem a little bit too much detail, but like at the moment, the reason that we're really concerned is because it's gone from the most vulnerable people needing to have it because it should protect them, right? It should protect them, and then therefore they can go out and about to, apparently in the UK, a 75% uptake rate. Now, with a statistic like that, you have to ask the question, 75% of who? What, the entire population? The most vulnerable population, the over 70s, the over 50s? Like, stats are very, very easily manipulated. And I've heard that it can be more closer to actually much less than that. But by the by, without wanting to get too in the weeds with this, what I would say is that when it comes to this holy war, it is the war between light and dark. It is the war between truth and lies. It is a war between empowering ourselves and being overpowered by others. And the choice is inside of each of us. It's in our hearts, okay? And it's in our minds as well. Because in heart-brain coherence, you get the brain to entrain with the heart, and in so doing, you become incredibly tuned in, incredibly intuitive, incredibly aware of others' energy, your own energy. You click into basically being on the best timeline, right? But what ends up happening is, if your intuition is distorted and you're letting your brain lead your heart, and there's so many environmental influences, including the EMFs, including constant noise from all the media channels, including what we're now putting into our bodies to supposedly protect ourselves, that there is a lot of concern around. A lot of concern that's not being presented. It's not open for debate. It is not allowed to be looked at. It is just shut down. It's very, very important for us to be aware that this is happening, because unless people like me talk about it, you don't know it. And hopefully you trust me enough to know that, you know, I'm not going to take on a cause just for no reason. You know, ultimately my work has been primarily in fertility and pregnancy and birth and early years for the last 20 years. Been very well aware of what's been going on the world stage and how that isn't really in line with the development of humanity as us being beings that continue to regenerate and to be healthy. It's much more about basically being able to control us, to control our health. And that means whether we get sicker or we get healthier. And again, I know this might sound really heavy, right? So just open your heart for a moment, okay? It's difficult to put this out there, but I'm doing it because our children are being targeted. The next thing is that everybody should have this. And yet, as I said to you, it doesn't prevent transmission. That is said in the leaflets. It does not prevent you dying, and it does not prevent you getting it again. And the way figures are put out, and then the counter figures that come out that are actually on or available on the internet, you can search it yourself, but you won't if you're just looking at what's on the headline. So the seed that's been planted is if someone hasn't had it, you shouldn't be around them. And actually, the more those of us who look at it, we go, really, we're probably better off not being around those who've had it. So there's a division again going on. And this holy war is one where we are basically choosing to defend ourselves because we are under attack. This is not about choosing duality. It's not about choosing to divide and conquer. This is actually about the fact that we are under attack psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And when you do start to entertain that that's a possibility, and you just open to the mysterious and you start to look at the world slightly differently, and you realize just because people are wearing, serious clothing and have a serious face doesn't mean that they're actually portraying truth, all right? And this is the difference between an awakened human and a conditioned human. You can see the light shining out of an awakened human. A conditioned human shut down. They're like a robot. They just do what they're told. They act the way they're expected to. They follow the narrative. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, if that's where your soul's growth is at this stage. But there are many of us who are here to help shift the planet. And that's why we are part of the holy war, which is inside of us and in the world around us. And if there is a fight, it is to allow love to win. The fight is to allow love to win within each and every one of us. And if we can do that, then we can really start to see it happening in the world. And this is the era of StarPeace. Now think about Star Wars, think about Darth Vader, think about the first trilogy. I used to love it because I think I needed to start StarPeace. But, you've got this dictator, right, who's basically trying to annihilate life. Interesting. A few dictators that might be trying to annihilate life here on Earth, certainly now and in the past. And it's only when you kind of get to the prequels that are created afterwards that you see that actually once upon a time this was a human that got deeply wounded, and in his pain he wanted to inflict pain on others. And this is what the ego does. This is what the conditioned, wounded, masculine and feminine do. And it's within each of us. This is in us. We all have the capacity to want to hurt others because we are in pain. So where does love win here? Where the battle is to allow forgiveness, compassion, mercy, practice discernment, but also hold those parts of us accountable and don't let them lead the way. So when you look at the Once Upon a Time, and once you look at Lucifer, you have a very similar story. It's a story of tremendous hope, but you have to go all the way through from the beginning to the end to see it. And that is that even the most evil, even the most wicked beings have the capacity to become source, to become good, to allow their nature, their divine nature, to override their wounds. And what does that really take? In both instances, what I saw it took was the belief of others in them. In Once Upon a Time, Snow White had this, insane optimism and belief in people's goodness. To the point that, she even turned on herself at one point. But the point is, when we do believe in people's goodness, but at the same time, we don't allow them to railroad us with their intention to harm, this is when the change can occur. And this is why each of us need to step up now. I, as a coach, work with emotional empaths. By the way, if you're liking this, please subscribe and please share this, because I'm committed to this message to the day I die. I think it's really, really important that people understand the choice that they have and how it's going to affect their lives and the world around them. Now I've lost my train of thought, which is very helpful. looking at my notes. Sorry about that. So basically, if we have it in us for the light to triumph, if we have it in us for always good to triumph, but we need to be able to practice the qualities of compassion. And we also need to hold those accountable who are inflicting pain. All the time you're denying they're doing it, they can continue. The moment you turn to face them and say, no, no being a complete sentence, by the way, no, I am not accepting this, then there is opposition that must be faced. Then there is the pressure to shift the balance of power. And this is what we do inside of us, and it's what we do in the world around us. So if we don't take a stand, we are just heading towards automatron, New World Order, Agenda 30 world, which some recently married conservationists and political activists might really be happy about. This relates to the UK Prime Minister, by the way. But, you know, there is a really big difference between being woke and being awake, all right? And not wanting to offend anybody, what I'm going to say here is that we don't need to be controlled in order to feel safe. We need to empower ourselves to trust our capacity to co-create something beautiful by owning everything that isn't beautiful. So yes, we do need to stand up. Yes, we do need to oppose. Yes, we do need to call out what is actually going on and say, this is not okay. It's not happening in my name. And I am not fearful of the consequences of standing up to you. Because when the fear isn't there anymore, there is no power to control. When the fear is there, we will conform. We will argue for the limitations that are actually being placed upon us because it's too uncomfortable to do anything different to that. So in order to really, really understand this and to accept it, it's important to believe that Lucifer could be God. It's important to believe that the most wicked witch, the most wicked queen could become the good queen. It's important to know that we each have the capacity of both within us, and what we feed is what's going to grow. Also, there are mainly two fractions as well, sayings finally come. So I work with sensitives as a coach. Sensitives are emotional empaths. We are no good in the battle, okay? We will just be destroyed. But we're very good at co-creating the new earth paradigm with our imagination, and that's seeding StarPeace. So recognizing you, where you are most in your power, is essential if you are going to be able to be effective in what part you play in this world today, okay? There are a lot of us, on the other hand, who I'd call the Rainbow Warriors. I'd call those who are Indigos, and I am an Indigo, but I'm an Indigo light worker. And there's a certain bit of crystalline child in me as well. And so I know, like, it's just not the way for me, okay? But for those who've got so much pent up anger inside that if they didn't channel it, you know, in a direction that's positive, it would eat them up or it would go somewhere negative. These are the people that are pushing the barriers. These are the people that are able to basically have the physical fight. They're the Hercules and the Xena warrior princesses of this world who are willing to die for what they believe in. They are willing to step forward. And I'm not calling here for anyone to be going on any suicide missions. Please, can I just make that very clear? That is not what I'm talking about at all. But what I'm talking about is being willing to stand up and be counted, okay? To stand in your truth, to process your own fear, to process your own shadow by bringing love to it, so that it's like water off a duck's back. And so if we take our place, and we take our place knowing that for someone like me, using my imagination, supporting others to see the new reality is the most powerful thing I could do. Whereas for others, taking to the streets or being antagonistic to what's going on or being willing to challenge those who maybe need to be challenged are happy to do that. They take great joy from it. You know, they have their role, they have their place. Everyone has their place at the moment, which is all to do with the downfall of the old patriarchal system, 10,000 years of rule, and the uprising of the divine human, or the sacred feminine, however you want to say it. It's the sacred feminine within each of us to co-create through feeling-based intention rather than to co-create from an egoic point of needing to dominate others in order to feel safe. The Luciferian Path is all about light without compassion. It's consciousness without compassion, right? But I don't want to spoil it for you. I really don't. But like, in the end, compassion and consciousness work together. They're meant to be together. So we all have it within us, okay? We all have it within us to win, okay? And it is allowing love to win within you that will allow love to win in this world. But you can't walk around denying that something very odd is going on and it actually doesn't make sense. So when you're starting to get the mainstream channels basically encouraging people to pitch against each other, this has to tell you something. This really has to tell you something. And, you know, consider whether you feel that the people that are running the world at the moment are motivated by love and what you think they're really motivated by. There's a lot of megalomaniacs out there. There's a lot of God complex out there, and we all have to hold that in check. But when I talk about a holy war again, I think about the Mahabharata and I think about the Bhagavad Gita, which is the battle within the Mahabharata. And Arjuna basically has to face, in order for him to win this battle, he doesn't want to go to war, he doesn't want to go against his family members, he doesn't want to go against those he knows, those who respect and admire him. But he's got Krishna on his side, he's got God on his side, and God is saying, you've got to face this. If you don't, you're going to be annihilated. You know, this planet will be destroyed. You have to step into your power and do what is your calling to do. And this is what we're all being called to do. I know many of us have got friends that have distanced themselves, family members we can't have conversations with because they don't want to know. It's not even that they're willing to have a conversation. It's just like, la, 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 la. You can't do anything with that other than channel your light, because your light will support and protect them as well. But feeling your own pain, your own sadness, what it comes to actually step into your truth, to speak your truth, and then to be rejected, abandoned or betrayed for it is the hero's journey. You need to do that, okay? We need to accept that's part of the journey. If we shut our truth down, I was talking to a dear friend yesterday and she was talking about, you know, depression and repression and ultimately expression and liberation, right? Because if we suppress, we will be depressed and anxious. If we face what is there, then we're going to be able to liberate ourselves into a thrive paradigm, which is what we're here to do. In order not to bang on too far, I think I would encourage you to just start to accept things that are difficult to accept. I'm doing that myself, but you know what? It's been very liberating, because instead of seeing this as a negative now, it's like, oh yeah, that is what's going on. I knew that was what was going on. And on a higher level, this is exactly what needs to happen in order for us to move beyond the need to go to war. And I want to incite in you that when going to war in days of old, like when I share stories about from my cacao ceremonies, in the Maztec and Mayan times, as I was told, when tribes were going to war, what they would do is sit in a cave and drink cacao and stay there and converse and feel until their battle is over, until they have got peace, they have found peace between each other. That's what going to war was. So I want to take that on, but I also want to face the fact that all of us in this world today have to stand up and be counted. We have to be willing now to look at the areas we have been suppressing, we have been repressing, the places we don't want to go. When you start to lean into it, yes, you'll start to experience all the unexpressed emotions. I've just been going through 2 weeks of terror, like just terror being cleared from my body. And I know this is the eclipse doing its work. But the beautiful thing is, every time a story comes up in my mind, I'm like, I go, all right, let's go in there, okay? And what if that happens? Okay, and then what? And then what happens after that? And the most important thing I can do for myself is to keep reassuring myself that no matter what happens, I am there with me. I am there with me no matter what. I will not reject, abandon, or betray myself. That means going to the mirror significantly, often, and reminding myself of how empowered I am, reminding myself of my divine nature, and of allowing whatever needs to come up so that I can feel clearer and clearer. Because every time I go through a block and I face it and I lean into it rather than away from it, my nervous system calms down. I'm resetting my nervous system to an oxytocin response, which is this invitation to StarPeace, because it is literally, oxytocin is the love hormone, right? It is the hormone that makes you feel just good. Whereas adrenaline or the cortisol and so on, the stress hormones, keep us in a constant state of which is exactly what the mainstream channels do. They keep us in a constant state of suspended drama, animation, what's going to happen next, holding on to the edge of your seat. Oh mate, I'm so bored of living like that. I don't want to live like that. I want to wake up every day with joy in my heart, positive expectation, what's going to come next. So this is the invite, is to remember that, yeah, we're in something 10 years in. We've got another 10 years to go. There are loads of us who are going through this process now of going through our pain, of going through the terror, of going through the fear of being opposed, ridiculed, suppressed, censored, whatever you want to call it. We're going through it and we're saying, you know what, fine, bring it on. I am not going to be muzzled. I am not going to be shut down. I am not going to be frightened into compliance. I'm not prepared to do it. And when you really hold that and you hold and say, I am prepared to step forward and say, this is not okay, because it does not make sense for something that has really shaved off a teeny percentage of the population that are already not very well or old, to then take something experimental to the entire human race that you don't have to have once or twice. You're going to need to have repeatedly, like that shot that they give you every year to protect you against the normal things that most people die from every year, right? Influenza. And so it doesn't really make sense to do a just in case for something that we just don't know the outcome of. We really don't. Now, why is this happening? Well, you can go down the rabbit hole there. I think it's just worth saying you've been born into a time where there is a final battle going on. It is a battle between good and evil. It is within each of us. It is so we can reclaim the free will of this planet, reclaim the free will of humanity, so that we can live again as divine humans on Earth, rather than as beings that have been tampered with, that have had our genetic coding tampered with, and we're continuing to have our genetic coding tampered with. Once you ascend beyond the fear, it has no power over you. I truly believe that. And I feel like I've been under psychic attack for the last couple of weeks too, like literally foggy brain, not being able to do anything. I was sitting looking at my computer, not being able to string a sentence together. This is not me, right? Now, this is one of the things that's being talked about in terms of the side effects of what is being given to us, right? So considering I haven't had it, I've only been around a few people that might have had it. What else is going on in the ethers at the moment? Now, this does tie a whole load of things together that you would otherwise put under a tin hat analogy. But when you start to look at it and you bring light to it, you see how everything is connected. Just like all of the stuff on this planet that isn't great is connected. Of course it is. Just like everything that is wonderful is connected, because birds of a feather flock together. Energy is energy. It will go where it is welcome, where it's a vibrational match. So as we step up, we will be around more and more beings who are a vibrational match for us. And it's only when you go along to a march like the one that happened on Saturday in London and you hear the media channel say a few hundred, right? And you know there were hundreds of thousands there, all right? You know there were a lot of people there. And as a result of that, you know you're being lied to. You've seen it with your own eyes. You start having much less faith in everything else that's being told, because you know if this is what they're doing here, where else are they doing it? And all I can say to you is the resistance is rising, all right? Massively. It's coming through the cracks. It's inevitable that the light has won. Inevitable. That doesn't mean that there isn't a shit show going on. And it doesn't mean that those that are in a process where they are going to have to accept defeat aren't trying to take down as many beings as they can with them. I think if you can face that, and again, take this with a pinch of salt. Let this be a fairy tale, okay? Let it be an analogy if you can't deal with it being a truth. But look at how it's playing out in your own lives and do some more research around it. Like, find out more. Anything that I haven't said. So I'll put here about Star Wars, the evil broken dictator. Everyone gets a second chance. That's what I wanted to say, was that in this game of life, anyone who has maybe taken the dark path and wants to come back onto the light gets the chance to do it, but they have to face their pain. They have to face their pain. There needs to be remorse for there to be mercy, right? And this is part of the journey, again, about understanding why there might be a division like heaven and hell, and why anyone would go to hell, in order to be able to deal with themselves, in order to be able to deal with their perception of themselves, because everything's a mindset shift. Everything is a mindset shift. When you shift your mind about you, you shift your mind about the world, things shift. It's phenomenal. So it is really important that those of us of pure heart stand up, remember who we are, and step forward and be willing to be that wall against oppression, okay? We resist, we persist, we pressurize, but we will also counterattack. If we are attacked, we are perfectly within our rights to counterattack, because they're coming for our children. It's not just about us anymore. It's about our children and our grandchildren and everyone else. And I don't know anyone who looks into the current environmental policies that are supposedly the ones we should all be taking around the world and say, this is sustainable. Like, seriously, look at the root words and say, how can this be sustainable? Now, okay, we've got an overpopulated planet. There are processes in place to depopulate, many different types of processes in place, but what's the long-term prognosis for those of us who manage to move our way through? We want to live in a world that isn't polluted and toxic and genetically modified. We want to live in a world where we can thrive, where the oceans are pure, right? Where we've got microplastics everywhere and EMFs everywhere. But that is the way the world is at the moment until we choose to make it different. So this is my imploring you from my heart just to let yourself see it. Drop the act, drop the denial, drop the, oh, I don't know, so I won't really take a position. Learn. Because your decision not to look at it is a decision in itself. They say that ignorance is bliss, but it isn't. Not when you realize the effects of that ignorance on those you love, on yourself, on the choices that are now ahead of you because you chose not to see. That's your choice. You're going to have to live with it. You are going to have to live with it. We all make our own beds, right? So out of love and compassion, I'm just saying, this, you're hearing this, have a look at it, okay? And remember, so find that inner Kung Fu master, that inner Jiu-Jitsu master. Be willing to utilize the emotions that have been challenging for you to face, to transmute them into this passion for change. Yeah, it is very Aquanine as well. Well done. Exactly. It's all part of that because the fall of Atlantis is the seeding of this time. Okay, so it's all part of that. We are constantly being told what's going on in our entertainment industry, both the light and the dark. We're constantly being told. So if you're buzzing with this, when you do watch it, thanks for being with me, Nick, all this time. Allow yourself now to consider what would StarPeace look like in your world. If you could seed peace, if you could seed a new reality, if you could write a new narrative for the areas of your life that are shitty, what would it look like? In all the areas that you feel inhibited, restrained, limited, what would it feel like to actually live a different life? So I keep saying to people, what kind of education system do you want? What kind of healthcare system do you want? What kind of political system do we want? What kind of financial system do we want? Like, we get to choose, but all the time we're going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. That's one part, but we've also go, and here's what we want instead. Here's what we're co-creating instead. See how there's two different things that need to happen here. So the warriors push down the wall, but many of us need to also be now taking our energy towards creating the new earth. And if you want to join me in that, I will put you a couple of links down, but I have two awesome soul sisters that I want to mention, Tara Love Perry and Jen McCarty. Jen does a lot of videos on YouTube herself and she's talking purely from her heart. She's given me so much confidence to just say it as I see it because I had to go through my valley of doubt and fear and everything else. And you know, when you speak like this, you do alienate people, right? It's not for everybody. It's really not. I've seen a big shift in my yoga community, for example, of who's sticking around and who's like, oh, this is just a bit too much for me. But that's fine. I'm not vanilla. I'm Marmite. You're either going to love it or not. And you might step away and then step back. And that's fine too, because we can't all be everything to everyone. We need to stand in our truth and gather those who resonate with that, because each of us is a piece of the puzzle, putting everything together to create the new earth, right? So Tara is hosting an amazing event, Sacred Feminine event on the summer solstice, the 21st, summer solstice for us in the UK. I'm going to be in the panel discussions. I'm very excited about that. Please save the date all day. It's going to be going on all day, and there's going to be everything from menstruation, blood, sexuality to menopause and seeding the new earth paradigm. I've also got an event going on, which is a solstice event on the Sunday, the 20th, and then there is an exclusive event for, I'm really feeling into who I'm calling to it on the Saturday, but it is for those who are the way showers, the game makers, those who have been working very diligently in the last 18 months to uphold the frequencies of love light through the challenging times. You will get a personal invite from me if I've felt the call to invite you. But if you're feeling a call to find out more, you can message me as well, all right? I'll take that on board, just drop me a comment. Otherwise, keep an eye on the Rosy Glow Facebook page for the solstice event on Sunday. It is a physical local event for those who would like to participate, so it makes sense if you're in the Sussex area or the Surrey area. And it will be outdoors, so we will be making the most of connecting to nature. And yes, the Monday you can join me. Also this Friday I'm going to be doing a little video which will probably be about 20-30 minutes long about the post-eclipse energies and the main lessons I've been learning through this time that seem to be significant messages for the upcoming new moon solar eclipse the following Thursday. And I will be hosting the meditation co-creation on Wednesday lunchtime next week, the 9th. So Friday the 4th, 12:30. You will get from me a little download about the meditation the following week, and then the following week at 12 on the 9th, I will be hosting the meditation. I'm going to trial going straight in, cacao blessing meditation. So see how that goes down for people. So again, I share this with the utmost love. I remind you that it's okay to accept things are not the way we want them to be. And through doing so, we can really make a change. So if you love this, please subscribe, please share with others, please let's get this StarPeace movement going. Let's seed our new reality. Let's say what we want. Use the comments to share what you want in this world instead of what's wrong with it. And take what you don't want, turn it into what you do. That's how we access our imagination. All right, loads of love. Take care, beautiful ones.